Hello, welcome back to another Godzilla Battle Line video. Today we're going to be discussing the Season 10 meta and doing a tier list on it. Season 10 had a couple buffs and nerfs, mainly to 3-star units, and none of the S tiers got nerfed, so I feel like I could make this tier list pretty early on in the season. There's not really too many changes as far as the top of the meta goes. But there's a lot of things that I have shifted as far as A through C tier. Started off, we have Hedorah going back into B tier. We didn't talk a lot about Hedorah last time, so I'll elaborate a little more on why I think Hedorah is a very middling unit. The Psychic Course buffs really hurt Hedorah because Hedorah is a splash AoE damage unit, and the damage on Hedorah isn't super high. It's depending on that AoE splash to put in a lot of work and the good DPS, but Psychic Course counteracts Hedorah pretty hard, and it leaves him in a very middling spot. He already wasn't super good, and then you throw on the buff he just got with the poison passive damage, which feels like nothing. I would really love to know if you guys noticed a difference on it, but from what I've noticed, it's really just still bad. Like, it needs to be doubled from what it is currently. I really want that passive to just matter, like to do something. I think it does 100 damage if you walk into it. Maybe? I don't know. It's really weird. I don't know why it was buffed so little. Maybe I'm just not noticing the good damage on it, but it looks abysmal. So Hedorah is just something that you can invest in, but honestly, you don't have to. I've played through this whole game pretty much not using Hedorah on any of my main teams. I've leveled them up to 26. I really have not used them at all, really. You can climb in this game without using Hedorah. I see a lot of people invest in Hedorah, and you don't have to. He's okay. Moving on. Burning Godzilla is going to be moving back into C tier. He is still underleveled. He's not a great character either by any means. The attack speed on Burning Godzilla is pretty horrible. I think it's 3.1. 3.1 is just really long. It's super long. I think Anguirus has a 2.7 or a 2.8. Leo has like a 2.8 or a 2.9. Those feel really slow. And then you have Burning, who's at 3.1. The only good thing about Burning is his slow walk speed. He stops on buildings. He only costs 5. And you can build a nice push with him. But once the buildings are gone, that slow push kind of ends. So, I don't know. I haven't really used him. Really, he's going to be a lot better in the low ranks. Anything in King of the Monsters higher, I don't think he's doing too well. Kiryu is going to be going back into A tier. Kiryu's so weird because no one really has super high level Kiryu, so the people that do run Kiryu are kind of almost at a disadvantage because he's usually underleveled, so he's not going to beat people like me. But there are some Kiryus out there that are like level 11 where I see do very nice damage. They heal a lot from Psychic Chorus, and just the fact that Energy Base got buffed means Kiryu has more usage in just taking that out. But it's just hard to get pieces for him. So he's like a weird A tier. He's just he's not used a lot, but his potential is there. So he's just default in A tier, even though a lot of people don't use him. And in the low ranks, he is a menace. Apparently, he's like S tier. A lot of people think Kiryu's broken. He might be, because in fixed battles, he's insane. When everything's set at level 20, Kiryu is just insane. So, Kiryu's going to be sitting in A tier. Godzilla Ultima is something that's on a suspect list for me, where I was so tempted to almost put him in the top of B tier, because he has fallen from what he once was. And he kind of just sits in A at the bottom every time, not changing. But I really don't feel like Ultima is the best option to be running at the very top. Because obviously the Terrestrius evolution is a tough one, right? That's everyone agrees that's why Ultima is like not the best character. But let's say you evolve Terrestrius consistently and you always have Ultima. I don't think Ultima really stacks up against the top of the meta. I don't think he stacks up against Batra. I don't think he stacks up against Biollante. Godzilla 89 and King Caesar just whop him. So does Biollante. Those 3 ground units whop Ultima every time. Yeah, King Caesar is going to probably die after charging into Ultima, but like, isn't that his job? He got you 2 more cost, didn't he? Or he killed Ultima for 2 less cost, but Ultima's still good. You can work around him. He is a sniper, but it's just not the top of the line plays you could be making. And then on top of that, you have the Terrestrius ordeal, which makes it super hard to get Ultima in the first place. So you can use Ultima, good character, but he is at the bottom of the pecking order as far as top of the metas going. And if you're losing with Ultima, that is why, what I just explained. Fire Rodan. Fire Rodan's probably right behind Hedorah. I'll have to see later on. I've been using a lot of Fire Rodan, like a lot of Fire Rodan lately. Ever since I made that off-meta Fire Rodan deck video, I've been using that exact team a lot. And it really gave me a lot more insight on how good Space Godzilla is, how good Mothra is, how good Fire Rodan is, because I don't have Batra, Mechagodzilla, Super X in those decks. So I'm really depending on those characters to put in work. With that said, Fire Rodan's probably the worst out of those 3 I just mentioned because of the evolution. It's the same thing as Terrestrius. The evolution holds him back, it's not consistent. If you don't evolve him, you're gonna have a bad time. But Fire Rodan is on the worst receiving end of that because his evolution is even harder than Terrestrius. And he's not a harder carry than Ultima is. He is really good. Like, the speed boost is great. You know, you speed boost a bunch of stuff and they just fly in and you psychic chorus everything and you're probably going to win the trade. And Fire Rodan is overpowered in overtime because every time he dies, he's healing your leader insane amounts. The problem is getting him there, getting him consistently to evolve. Half the time, he's just not going to evolve. The first time you fail the evolution, it's really just downhill from there. The only bright side is they have buffed Fire Rodan's pre-evolution stats. So his stats honestly aren't that bad. If you don't get Fire Rodan evolved and you have a level 10 Fire Rodan, I know a lot of people don't, but that's just an example. It's pretty nice stats. He's got like 400 damage, 2k health, and a speed boost for 4 costs. So you could still send him out and use him as a unit instead of like pocketing him like a Mothra Larva, because Mothra Larva is not going to do anything. But Fire Rodan's pre-evo will kill stuff and do damage and speed boost. So I recommend you have fun with Fire Rodan. It could be, I think levels are very important because you need the extra health on the pre-evolution to evolve it because it's so hard already for my level 11. So anything lower than that is going to be tougher. So that's why he sits in B tier. He is a good character locked behind a very bad evolution. Helicopters going right into D tier. It's trash. If you want to fix helicopter base, you don't buff anything else, but it's missiles. Its missiles despawn if the helicopter dies. Can't have that happen. It makes it absolutely useless. It'll always be in D tier till that's fixed. Anguirus is going to be right in front of Ultima. Look at that, dude. You see what I'm seeing? You see an Anguirus in front of an Ultima right now? I think you do. And anyone that doubts this is just absolutely wrong. Anguirus counters Ultima super hard. So you get a 4-cost tank at level 30 with 4,400 HP. That is a lot of health on a 4-cost tank. That is all Anguirus is. You might as well translate Anguirus to health. That's what you are, Angie. You're health. He's a tank. He soaks up Ultima. He soaks up Super X. He soaks up all those high damage dealers. He's not great at soaking up Batra. Batra will dent him fast, but Batra dents everything fast, so that obviously makes sense. But when he's pulling aggro, he can pull it long enough to let your other units kill what's on your Anguirus, which is exactly what you want from a tank. I do think Anguirus is extremely viable and can fit into a lot of decks. It's hard to mix him in with Biollante because it's just a lot of ground units and you always have to have flyers. I always think you need at least 3 units that can hit flying units. Like, at least. Because if you're on defense and you don't have that flying coverage, then you could be shit out of luck. Like, if a King Ghidorah and a Batra are coming at you and you have Bylante and Gearus in your hand without anything that can hit a flyer, that's not going to help you that much. So that is why you kind of have to decide what ground unit you want. But Anguirus is totally worth it if you do want to run him. He's going to require the levels, but I've seen people tell me they use him around 20 to 25 and are still finding a lot of success now that he's a 4 cost. Batra's going back into S tier. The S tier meta is not really going to change. They didn't touch any of the last things I put in S tier, so for them to drop, I would have to have been wrong, or something that got buffed would have to just drop him out of S tier completely, which did not happen. So Batra is still an S tier pick. Do I really need to talk about Batra? I'm sure you've all experienced or used Batra within the last couple months. You know what it does. It's oppressive. Bylante back in S tier, same thing. Really surprised Bylante didn't get touched. She is a menace. If you want to fix Bylante, there is a couple routes you can go. Personally, I like her at 3 cost because that's what she's designed as, and I feel like Toho really wants to keep things at the same cost because they're super hesitant at pulling the trigger. Like, Showa Gaigan is still 5 cost when he's absolutely trash. Really just shows they don't want to adjust costs that much. So Bylante should be 3 cost, but should probably lose a ton of health or damage. I really think losing health would hurt her way too hard. I think she should get a little damage nerf, just a bit, and a health nerf by a couple hundred HP. Like, mine has 2,400 at like level 10. It should probably have 2,000 flat. I don't know. It's really tough to when something's that overpowered. It's really tough to try to balance them out. I hope they can manage to do that. I don't want to see Bylante go back to being horrible, but I do not want her being in S tier next season. It's been too long. She's way too oppressive, way too cheap. Fix that shit, boy. Stealth Bomber is going to be D tier. I put it in C last time and I got ripped on because I accidentally, without knowing, moved it up C tier, so it was at the top when it was supposed to be at the bottom. I gave it a chance because it got buffed. Maybe someone would use it down the line and I'd be like, oh, you know what, that's decent. I shouldn't have put it in D tier, so I put it in C. That did not happen. No one used Stealth Bomber. Everyone said, this is worthless. Why would I invest gold into this? And you know what? I totally agree, because I didn't either. It's going right back into D tier. Get out of our lives. We hate you, Stealth Bomber. Psychic Chorus. Top of S tier again. Psychic Chorus is so good. I don't know how good it is in the lower ranks. I don't know how much the heal does compared to like the lower leveled units. Apparently it works good because I see lower level players using their level 17 Psychic Choruses and liking it, which is great. But when that thing gets to 25, I'm just telling you, that is the sweet spot. It heals so much. But then when people are leveling it to like 30 plus into the 40 range, it is broken. I'm just seeing these top of the line players that have leveled it to like 35 to 40, just healing massive, and I mean massive amounts, to where it's just not even, it feels so advanced compared to my level 25 chorus. I'm not saying I like lose just based off that trait alone, but like you could really tell how much they heal, especially when they do it on their leader. It is crazy. Psychic Chorus is nuts. I do like that it's meta, because Psychic Chorus has always been trash, so it's almost like having a brand new unit. But I don't like when that brand new unit is broken, which Psychic Chorus is leaning towards right now. It's leaning towards the broken side. So we'll see how Psychic Chorus evolves over time. Maybe they should move its cost back to 4 now that it heals pretty good and it's a pretty big AoE. We'll see. Ghidorah is probably, I'll put it at the bottom of B. I feel like with the G material now and how many Ghidorah pieces have been attained by players, that someone could push for like a level 10 Ghidorah by the end of this season. which I think would, be better than a C tier pick. Ghidorah is a pretty good character. In fact, in the meta video I used Ghidorah, it was only level 5, and I was really, really impressed with how well it dealt with a lot of units on defense, and I think that's its best quality. It could shred stuff on defense. Offensively, it just chases things around, is a little too slow for my liking, but on defense I totally see that potential. It probably could do it better than a lot of characters can. And there's a lot to be discovered with Ghidorah as far as ranked play goes, but I will put Ghidorah in B for the sole purpose that someone could be leveling it and it could be getting some good results. But for the most part, Ghidorah is a 7 cost. So you need a 7 cost to be carrying your game, right? It should be the strongest thing in your deck if it's the most expensive. And if Ghidorah is under leveled, then how could it be the strongest, So that's kind of the issue with Ghidorah in itself, is that it needs to be on par with everything else to do what it needs to do, or else it's struggling. So you might want to invest in G material on Ghidorah if you're a big fan, but King Ghidorah is still a good option. I mean, there's not really a huge point to be investing in Ghidorah, but it is not a bad call. If you want to use the character, I'm giving you a thumbs up, go for it, dump your G materials, but there's a lot others you could also be using it on. Destroy Larva is fat back in D tier. I don't know how well it does in the lower ranks. It might be extremely disrespectful to put it in D for some newer players, but Destroy Larva Swarm is just terrible. It's so bad. It is totally a tier below Comma Swarm. It's way too bunched. It does okay damage, but they die so fast to anything that it doesn't matter. They need more health to be able to do damage, or else what's the point? You're playing 5 costs to... I mean, the only purpose you'd have for it is to stop a Godzilla 89. And at that point, you're praying that they're not sending a Biollante with it, or anything. There's just no... I mean, even let's say you do hold off a push with Destroy Larva for 5 cost, they're not pushing afterwards and winning you the game. Mechagodzilla. Let's say Mechagodzilla stops a Godzilla. She's not taking any damage, and she's going to be pecking at him, slowing him. And she might be full health by the time that Godzilla dies, and then she's flying out for offense. And then you have to take out a level whatever Mechagodzilla with 2,500 health and 500 damage. Like, that is way better for 5 costs than a Destroy Larva Swarm. So, there you go. Destroy Larva Swarm sucks butt. Dimension Tide going to B tier. Why is Dimension Tide falling off from A tier, you might ask? It's very, very, very simple answer. It's Psychic Chorus. Psychic Chorus is way better than Dimension Tide. I think Energy Base is better than Dimension Tide. I run Psychic Chorus and Energy Base, and it's a staple in most of my decks right now. And fitting a 3rd effect unit into a deck where you only have 7 units to use is like, ugh, I don't like that. I do not like that. So Dimension Tide is definitely shafted for those two. And then on top of that, it's countered by Psychic Chorus. You could heal things in the Dimension Tide to preserve them from dying. I mean, the Dimension Tide does happen fast, so maybe you can kill something on low health without it healing, but for 4 cost, it could be healed through, and it's not nearly as consistent as it was in the past, because in the past, there was no Psychic Chorus. Whenever you Dimension Tide something, that damage was staying, it was true, it really messed up pushes and timing, but now it's like, we could just heal through all that stuff, and then you just wasted 4 energy, my units are still on the board, and pushing together. Is it bad? Absolutely not. Dimension Tide still does its job when it comes to pulling in larvas and terrestruses and all the pre-evolutions, as well as pulling in Super X's. It's just Psychic Chorus makes its job a lot harder to capitalize on. So it's going to be in B tier. Dorats going into B tier. Bottom of B. Dorats is so weird still. The only reason I'm putting it in the bottom of B tier, shout out to a player named Comics. I play Comics a lot. comics is probably one of the coolest players I play in ranked battles because he also likes to try new weird stuff. He actually tries more weird and new stuff than I do. I don't know how this guy does it, but he uses like Kong, Dorats, he uses so much weird stuff. But I appreciate it because it gives me a feel for those units. And he's a good player who knows how to use them. He's not just sending things out stupidly. Kong still sucks, don't get me wrong. That guy uses Kong, it sucks ass. But Dorats, he does make some nice little finesse plays with Dorats. They're not great. That's why they're at the bottom of B tier. I don't think bottom of B tier is like noteworthy or anything. But he does make some good plays, and they do have some good DPS. And in comparison to like Rodan 64, I'm pretty sure Rodan 64 eats 3 hits like Dorats does. So they're pretty much the same amount of tanky. And I think Dorats might do better DPS if all 3 of them are alive. And for 1 less cost. So I feel like Dorats is almost a better option than Rodan 64. The only thing is Dorats is absolutely countered by King Ghidorah and Hedorah, like very bad, to the point where if you're running King Ghidorah and Hedorah, Dorats are just non-existent. They're just so bad. But if you don't run those, like I'm not running King Ghidorah and Hedorah right now. The main reason those 2 AoE characters aren't being run as much is also because of Psychic Chorus. Because what's the point of AoE if you could just AoE heal everything that's getting damaged? So Dorats is seeing a little more play. I think it's a little easier to play because of the lack of Hedorahs and King Ghidorahs out on the field. So it's not bad. If you have your Dorats at level 20, maybe use it. The play I saw him go for, which is the most impressive, is he just blitzed Dorats and then Mogirid behind me. And it doesn't sound like a good play, but in my head, I'm thinking like, okay, I'm just going to let my leader take out the Dorats. Why would I deploy anything? But then he drops the Mogira, so then I have to make a choice, and usually the Dorats start chipping at my leader, and it does do good DPS. Alright, moving on. Dorats doesn't deserve that much time. Energy base. Above Kiryu. Energy base just got buffed. I'm an energy base addict. This thing did not deserve a buff. I think it only got buffed to promote more play from it and Train Bomb to try to add into more units being involved in the meta. I mean, people seem to not... I must be like mentally insane when talking about energy base because I think it's so good. I think it is so good, and people just don't use it. When new players ask for recommendations, players recommend take out energy base. It blows my mind. Do you know how I got good at this game? You need to listen how I got good at this game. You use energy base, you don't level it up. That's a free unit that you could use forever. You don't even have to level it up. It's free. It's like the same value as having a level 30 unit that you paid 200,000 gold for, but you don't pay a single gold. You put energy base in your deck at level 1, you're a new player, just do this forever, leave it there. There you go. It's a free unit that you never have to level up. It gives you a ton of energy. Learn how to use it because it is OP. I still use it at the very top, so it's not like it falls off. I did level it to level 20. You eventually will have to, but you won't for a very long time. You can even look back to early videos on this channel. It's still level 9 in a lot of those. You could even see it in the thumbnail. Low level players stick energy base in your deck, use Kamakaris, use Manila, use King Caesar, use those units for a very long time and farm a ton of gold and buy 4 stars from the shop. That is what I did. That is how I became so good. Part of that is because energy base doesn't require any investment. Throw it in your decks, please. On a side note though, it is not S tier despite being that broken. Because it can be Train Bombed, it can be Kiryu'd, it can be Mogirid, it does have very easy counters. And Train Bomb is a for sure counter. If someone Train Bombs your energy base, boom, that thing's gone. Personally, I would rather run energy base than have Train Bomb because I like that upside a lot more. But yeah, it's bringing it a lot back into the meta, being able to take out energy bases and using them. So I would try to use something that either takes out energy base or use energy base itself. Sande. Apparently this thing's called Sande or something. Like it's French, like Somme. That sounds stupid. so I don't care, French people. It's called Sande. Anyways, Sande is, nothing really changed. It's always like around the top of B tier for me. It's an okay spell. It's not great. People who use Ultima and Super X probably think it's better than what it is. If you could see actually my last video, my last ranked battle video with Anguirus, there's a situation where someone Sandes my units, and I explain why Sanding like this is bad and it's a very bad play, and then I won the game off the next push. So that is exactly, if you can watch that last video right before this one that I released, I think it was against the Shape, you'll see exactly why I don't like Sande. That is the perfect example of why I think Sande is kind of a double-edged sword unit. You need to be very smart when using Sande. Whenever something is slowed, you have to kill it. If you use Sande, that should be your, whatever, your slogan. Like, if I slow it, I kill it. If I slow it, I kill it. Every time. Alright, moving on. Godzilla 21. Probably put Godzilla 21 there. After using G21 in that video as well, he was honestly the only offensive option I had. He is good on offense. He is good at rushing down and killing the leader. If you can get that to work, it's nice. The problem is getting it to work. How do you get it to work consistently? People say like, oh dude, G21 wins every 1v1. He's a beast, strongest character in the game. It's like, no, he's not. Because this game isn't about 1v1s. This game's about winning. That's all it's about, is winning, destroying the other leader. So let's say G21 fights anything before he gets to the leader. What happens? Oh, he wins. Okay, what's his health looking like? Oh, it's really low. Yeah, it's really low. Oh yeah, so what's he doing when he gets on the leader now? Oh, he's dead. Cool. Not only that, G21, the super long attack animation that he gets sometimes, which is a bug. I'm fairly certain that's not how it's designed to be. Because sometimes, if you see him go on the leader, he walks up, instant goes on the leader. But if something's moving, he like waddles around, he does a Dougie, he 360s and hits a Nene, and then he's pretty much dead by the time he even starts attacking. G21 is a solid rush unit. You should always be using him as a rusher to get to the leader. If you're using him for other stuff, you got balls, I'll give you that. Moving on. Kama Swarm. Kama Swarm, bottom of C tier, better than Destroy Larva. It's good at stopping G89. It's good at stopping Anguirus. Any single target ground attackers. It's Mechagodzilla and King Caesar might be able to stall on pretty well, using it for defense. Same problem as Destroy Larva I mentioned. It has no offensive capabilities and is actually horrible. So if you deploy Kama Swarm on defense, you pray to God they all die on defense. Because if they go and start pushing on offense, like 6 of them, I'm going to deploy Super X behind my leader. I'm going to shoot all your Kamakra Swarms, stall on it till I have 10 energy, and deploy more stuff. That's exactly why Kama Swarm sucks. And if you don't understand what I said, it's because you're not good enough to understand really high level strats, and you should probably watch more of my videos. King Caesar back up in A tier. King Caesar is a beast. No one uses King, well, people use King Caesar, I see him a lot, but not enough. King Caesar is so good. The only problem is there's so many good units, it's hard to fit in King Caesar, especially from that thing I said earlier, where you need 3 units that are going to hit flying at all times. And then there's Biolante, there's Psychic Chorus, Anguirus, King Caesar. It's hard to fit in these ground units. So I could see why King Caesar is left out. I leave him out on a lot of teams, but it's never willingly. King Caesar is always useful. Kamakra above Ultima, right behind Angie. Kamakra is good. Kamakra is pretty much great in every situation that Biolante is not around. And you might think Kamakra is useless if they have a Biolante, and most people have a Biolante, but Biolante's AoE range isn't that massive to the point where you have to not deploy Kamakra at all. You could even run Kamakra on the furthest side of the map, and Super X is going to lock onto it from somewhere. And if you level up your Kamakras high, the Super X might needs 6 total shots to take out all 3. Not only that, it's great at stopping G89. It's great at stopping a lot of things. I mean, whatever his Kama Swarm is good at, normal Kamacris is even better because you don't need all the extra swarms. You just need the 3 for 2 cost. They get it done. King Hedorah is going to be... King Hedorah is so weird. Alright, here's my weird take on King Hedorah. So King Hedorah is a 7 cost now. I'm not seeing King Hedorah nearly as much. I don't see him that much at all. And I don't think it's because he's bad. I don't think he's a B tier. I'm personally, I don't use King Hedorah that much. I just don't. And King Hedorah is my highest level 4-star. It's level 16. I'm probably going to use King Hedorah now just because I said that in my next video. Maybe I'll do like a King Hedorah spot, not a spotlight, but King Hedorah, just using him in ranked. The main problem with King Hedorah is Psychic Chorus. People think Psychic Chorus is good on King Hedorah, but it's not, because his damage isn't high enough to burst through an enemy Psychic Chorus. So let's say like Batra and King Hedorah are fighting each other in their own Psychic Choruses. Batra's going to win every time because King Hedorah can't DPS hard enough while Batra can. Same thing with Mechagodzilla. Those units hit. DPS is very important this season. AoE has taken a backseat to DPS because DPS can punch through the Psychic Chorus while AoE doesn't do anything because Psychic Chorus heals up everything inside of its own AoE. So that really holds back King Hedorah. But high-level players still run King Hedorah and still put in work with him. That could just be because it is over-leveled, but it's still just wreck shop. And yeah, maybe you guys should go back to using King Hedorah. I know people do use him, but I just don't. The people I play just don't do it. They just don't. So maybe I'll give King Hedorah some more love, really test him out. He's probably the most unsure thing I am on this tier list. I mean, the lowest he could ever possibly be is probably in front of Ultima. But, yeah, it's my take on King Hedorah. Macrolite Cannon will put you right in C. The only thing I need to say about the Macrolite Cannon is it gets outranged by Super X. Did that sink in yet? Alright, moving on. Mba base will put above Burning Godzilla because you can get it to level 30 and it can be useful in the higher ranks. It's not great, but it's almost like it's like rolling a die trying to get Snake Eyes. Like sometimes it just works and you feel like a winner and you're like, I used this trash unit and it worked really well, and then other times it does nothing. So it's gimmicky. If you like really love bases for some weird reason, you sick weirdos that don't want to use monsters and use bases, whatever, fine, use it. I don't care. No skin off my bones. Normal Mbas, let's throw those right in D tier. Just awful trash. Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla is going in C tier. Mechagodzilla is very, very not good. So the last, this is where stuff's gonna change a lot. This B and C tier right now. I put a lot of, C tier is a lot bigger than B tier this meta because I was giving way too many things a pass because I know people use it and they say they win, but I just got to go off of what I'm seeing and what I think's good and what I can tell based off this meta, and Mechagodzilla is not good. He needs health. He's so slow. He hits okay, but his range kind of sucks, so he's always getting damaged first. He just does everything extremely mediocre. He almost feels exactly like Mothra Leo, where it's like, yeah, Mothra Leo's living out there, but what is she really accomplishing? Like, it's almost like they're trying to fight, like trying to compete, and it's like they're disguising themselves. It's almost like they're in a chorus, like singing, and they don't know the words, but they're like kind of mouthing it, like, that's how they are at fighting to me. I don't even know what I just said, but anyways, Mechagodzilla isn't very good. I would stay away from him. I wouldn't even level him. If you're a new player, I would totally not level up Mechagodzilla. Just leave him out. Use other stuff. He's not worth the gold. You can go your whole life without ever using Mechagodzilla and doing just fine. Mechagodzilla, on the other hand, is going top of A tier. Mechagodzilla is probably the closest thing you'll get to S tier without being S tier. Mechagodzilla should be what every unit strives to be, just very good, not overpowered. I don't think anyone's like Mechagodzilla is broken, but at the same time, no one's like Mechagodzilla sucks. She just does what she does. She's very good at it. Manila is going to be right here. Pretty much same as last time. Manila, he just does what he does, and he doesn't do exceptionally well like he used to. He's very easy to stall on with Super X, and he can be disruptive placed right. And he does counter certain units like G21, but G21's bottom of B tier, so that doesn't really boost him any higher. He's just an okay support unit. You're not going to have any problems running Manila. There's just better things you can run, to where I feel like it's better to have like a King Caesar, Kamacuras, Angie, Biolante. If those things aren't in your deck and you're using Manila over it, I just don't really see the benefit. Unless you're just struggling with cost, but I feel like this meta is relatively low cost. All those things I mentioned are below 5, so I don't know. I don't use Manila. Missile Strike, we'll go ahead and just put that in D tier. I think that's the last thing going in D tier. It's just, it's pointless. It's so pointless. If you want to use Missile Strike, use Train Bomb, use Dimension Diode, use Kiryu, use Mog. Those things all do its job way better for the same or less cost. Missile Strike's very bad. I think a good change would maybe be to double the damage on flyers with Missile Strike. That might be good. We'll have to see. But I think that would be a step in the right direction for making it at least a usable unit, because it hasn't been since I started playing this game. It is useful for lower level players that I know a lot of you, listen to me, you low level players with your Kiryu Absolute Zero Cannon Cheese missiles. That stuff is not going to work forever. So do not depend on your level 20 missiles that you over leveled to carry you for a long time. It will not. And it's a waste of gold. It will be. I promise. The quicker you drop the whole Absolute Zero Cannon cheese in the lower ranks and start using an actual team and learning how to actually play the game, the better you will become. I promise. Mogira, top of B tier. Mogira is he's debatable A for me. I do see a lot of people run Mog, and I have lost to teams with Mog, but at the same time, it's like if I ran Kamacuras, like this Mog just gets destroyed. Not only that, you could turn Mog around on Anguirus and King Caesar and make him not go for the energy base. Kiryu's missiles are a lot more dependable damage on the energy base, even if he gets distracted. And then on top of that, Train Bomb is one less cost than Mog and insta takes out energy base and cannot be countered. So then you're looking at Mog's other usage, which is going behind the leader, which is pretty good. I think it's only really viable against 4-star leaders. Whenever I'm using a Mothra leader or a Jet Jaguar leader, these Mogiras are just criminals, dude. They just go in there and chunk so much. But if it's my G89 leader, I just don't care. I'm like, does Godzilla care? He'll stare into that Mog's eyes while he does little pellets at him, and he just don't care. Godzilla's too tanky for that. So I think Mog is just a top of B tier. I don't think it's bad. It's like a borderline A. If you run Mog, there's nothing really bad about it, unless they have Kamacuras, which kind of ruins its life, but that's about it. Mothra Leo, C tier. I kept putting Mothra Leo in B, not anymore. You do not get a pass anymore, Mothra Leo. You're trash. Your attack speed is garbage. Your charge damage is lackluster. Your targeting, terrible. What do you do well? You could charge into a flyer pretty well and hurt them. How often does that happen? If the enemy doesn't have Anguirus, doesn't have Kamacuras, doesn't have... I even put my Mechagodzilla in front of Leo. I don't care. Mechagodzilla wins that every time. Leo's trash. Stop using Mothra Leo. I'm sorry for putting it in B tier. It does have nice health. That's why I was being a little too lenient on some things. I know people like to run certain things. I didn't want to hurt their feelings. but Mothra Leo is not good. Needs a buff. Mothra, on the other hand, is going to go right in the bottom of A tier. It is almost a counterpart to Godzilla Ultima. Mothra Larva isn't exactly the easiest thing to get up. It is easier than Terrestris, but harder than Batra Larva. And Mothra as a unit is not nearly as good as Batra, so you're pretty much using Mothra for no reason over Batra for the most part. But you can also use them together, which does work very nicely. The only problem is then you have two larvas that you need to get evolved. And Mothra is the harder one. But when she gets evolved, she puts in work. Her damage is very high. She puts in massive amounts of damage. Psychic Chorus can keep her alive. And she does pretty well for the most part. Only problem is that evolution. She's also maybe something that could be borderline A or B, but I feel a lot more comfortable putting her in A over Mogira. Rodan 64 is going to go right down here. He is very bad. Rodan's so bad. Fire Rodan's pre-evolution, I think, is a better unit than Rodan. I think if you are running a Rodan in the high ranks, let's say you have a level 30 Rodan, gold plate and all, and you have a level 10 Fire Rodan, I would use the level 10 Fire Rodan just for the sole purpose that the pre-evolution is probably more useful than the level 30 normal Rodan. So, yeah, pretty bad. So let's talk about 64 Rodan. It has high DPS. That's always the argument. It has good DPS. It does a lot of damage. Okay, but how much health does it have? It's getting two-shot by Batra. How many attacks is it getting in? 1, 2, and then dead? That's not good. That's trash. That's why it's in C tier. Garbage. Very bad. I think it would be a lot better if Rodan 64 was a 3 cost. I would actually love that change. Space Godzilla over Ultima. Get wrecked. How many kids are pissed crying in the comments section right now saying, how is that possible? How is that possible? Space Godzilla gets popped by Biollante. How is that even possible? Well, you know what? You're absolutely right. He does not do well into Biollante. But I can tell you this. He does worse into King Ghidorah, and King Ghidorah is honestly less run than Space Godzilla is right now. From what I've seen, I see more people run Space G than I see King Ghidorah. Now let's talk about why people think Space Godzilla is bad. Because Biollante is super oppressive and 3 cost and wrecks his space balls. But what can Space Godzilla do to stop that? He can heal in a Psychic Chorus. Not only that, Space Godzilla sits in the back. Biollante sits in the front. So deploy your own Biollante to counteract their Biollante and then throw Psychic Chorus down, and you're usually going to win the trade. Secondly, if Biollante is in the front on their team, it's going to get targeted by your units first, while your Space Godzilla is in the back, meaning it won't get targeted. So, look, I can't explain it, but Space Godzilla works. He just works. He's a baller on defense. He's probably the second best defensive unit to Mechagodzilla. Not only is he good on defense, that push he does offensively is way, way stronger than Mechagodzilla is because he pushes so slow. He spawns all those crystals, and you can manifest this crazy push. Is he hard to use? Absolutely, Space Godzilla is hard to use. You need to really know how to manipulate the crystals. You really need to know when to use him, when not to use him. But if you can get the hang of Space Godzilla, he is totally... He's good. I think he's good, and I think he's better than Ultima. I personally run Space Godzilla over Ultima more often than not. So I have to put him over A. Train Bomb. Bottom of A tier. I think it's the very bottom of A. You only run Train Bomb if you hate Energy Base. If you don't care if they run Energy Base and you're beating them somehow, good for you. If that's not the case, use Train Bomb, please. Just take it out. It's a solid play. There's no counterplay. Gets you 1 more energy, and it takes out their whole... And usually if they're running Energy Base, they kind of rely on it, right? So it really just messes with their head. So if you're not using Energy Base, I recommend you use Kiryu or Train Bomb. You got to use one of them. Godzilla 89. I'm gonna put Godzilla 89 right behind Mechagodzilla. Same thing as last season. Really, nothing's changed. Godzilla 89 gets infinitely stronger as he gets levels, like Gears does. So if you're using a very low level 89 in the low ranks, it still does decent. But like all those heals that he's getting just get so much stronger as you get higher level. I don't see people run G89 like I do, but my G89 is just a menace. That guy just wrecks everything, okay? I don't know what it is. It might have just been because I use Mothra Leader and G89 so much that I've just become so clean with it. But people cannot stop that mofo, okay? When my Godzilla has a Biollante behind him, a Super X, a Batra, Psychic Chorus, and a Moth Heal, people's minds explode. They just can't do it. So for that reason, I gotta put Godzilla up there. Do I think Godzilla's a staple on most teams? No. But if you build around him, I think he is a top of A tier pick. Super X, demoted. You're now the second best S tier. Psychic Chorus has trumped Super X. It's that good. Not much I have to say about Super X. Absolutely broken. I will say this one thing. Since people don't understand what really makes Super X so good, I mentioned it a little earlier. It's the fact that Super X can sit behind your leader and stall without taking damage. So it just lets you just stack up a ton of energy and to massively push with so many things. So let's say like you deploy Mechagodzilla on defense. She's going to fight whatever is coming. She's going to lose health and then fly out. Super X is going to sit behind your leader, pelt their stuff down while being at full health, letting you probably regain 10 energy while having Super X out already. And then you could push with just this massive push. It makes Super X so good. And that is why I think it's probably one of the best units in the game. Jet Jaguar. I will put Jet Jaguar probably in the... I'll do it like that. Jet Jaguar gets a lot of hate. No one really uses him. He isn't bad. He does very well into a lot of units. Jet Jaguar gets countered by Super X so hard that it really just makes him suffer. And Super X is one of the best units in the game. He does very well into a lot of things. He does well into Batra. He does well into Godzilla 89. He does well into King Ghidorah. He does well into Angie. He does well into Space Godzilla. He does well into Ultima. He does very well into a lot of good units. Super X just makes him useless. Because when Super X shoots him, he doesn't do well into anything anymore. His shields are gone. Now he's just an underleveled, low health melee attacker that can't hit air. But if Super X doesn't exist, I think Jet Jaguar is pretty much fine. Showa Gigan will put probably in front of Rodan. I think Rodan is worse than Showa Gigan. I think Showa Gigan can be used as a late blitzer in a push and probably do well with Psychic Chorus. Do I know for a fact? No, because no one tries Showa Gigan. I haven't seen him yet. But just from theory crafting and looking at stats, I do think Showa Gigan is worth running over Rodan 64 in the high ranks. Gigan Final Wars, he is a better unit than Leo. I think Gigan Final Wars will enter the meta at least a B tier once he gets more pieces. Right now he just doesn't have it, but he's a promising unit and I think he is pretty good. I like his forecast. He has nice damage, good stun. I'm excited for him to be introduced at some point. Kong is Kong's terrible. I don't want to talk about Kong anymore. I hate him. He's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Godzilla 54. Same thing as Burning Godzilla, just too underleveled. It's for low-level players right now. No high-level player is able to do it. But personally, I do think Burning Godzilla is better in ranked than Godzilla 54, at least for right now. In the low ranks, doesn't matter. Whatever is your highest level 4-star, use it. And the kid ship we'll go ahead and put right there. The kid ship needs more time. Everyone stopped using it. It almost like it got taken out of the game after the first week. I haven't seen it since, but it just needs more time. But moving on, we have our last unit that isn't in this tier list, and that's Godzilla Earth. How good do I think Godzilla Earth is? I would probably put Earth at an honorary B tier. Earth's good. I think Earth is going to impact the meta for sure. I don't think he's bad at all. When that will happen, I don't know. I'm guessing in a season or two, because I feel like everyone's going to invest their G material into him. And he gets very strong stats at level 5. I'm looking to be using Earth very soon and dumping my G material into him, and I'll have a better opinion once I do that. But this is our tier list for Season 10. Hope you all agree. If you don't, let me know what you don't like. Maybe you hate me and just want to punch me in the face because you don't agree with my tier list. That's awesome. I'd love to hear about it. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.